you mentioned that this actually a shock is a realization of how life is organized politically, the essence of which is basically a game of sacrificing some to save others, or in the more ordinary time is probably disadvantaging some for the privilege of others. So therefore, this is public. I think in your thinking, this is from the politics from above. This is what the public means. It's a percentage. Then you calculate, okay, 15% of death is better than 16% of death, right? So now you propose a very powerful notion, biopolitics from below. And can you tell us what will be the concrete shape of this biopolitics from below? And that, I mean, it's probably a naive question. Will be that a percentage, and this kind of aggregate thinking will be no longer relevant, or actually it's an aggregation of a different type?
I must admit that I do not have a clear, I can't give you concrete full answers. But I think watching last year and deeply immersed in the migrant crisis, and not only that, the response of the poorer classes, the response of the lower orders of society to this massive crisis, made me realize that the liberal way to rule, the liberal way to think, the liberal way to conduct our life is of so little value to the way in which people fight desperately to survive. And when I saw, of course I was thinking all along, but when I saw how nurses were responding, how caregivers were responding, how informal care workers were responding, how, as I wrote, slum dwellers were responding, and I placed three kinds of experiences to theorize what I mean by from below. One was the response of the state governments in India. So the Kerala government, the West Bengal government, the Kerala government gave most emphasis on reinforcing the structure of public health, and which helped them a great deal. This has helped them this time also in averting at least a greater loss. In West Bengal, we have a populist government which gave most emphasis on supplying food to the poor sections who were under 6 months of lockdown. Free ration, free food. The first thing that it felt was that, and it was a very typical in the way in which poor people think, at least I have food for the day. Next day I will see. So living from day to day, food is the first important thing here. First you ask for food, and then you ask for maybe water, and then a place to stay. And then you think of education, all those things. So West Bengal government. So that was one set of experiences where local governments, if you ask me, let me formulate it, how local governments have tackled the crisis. Because these local experiences, these local ways of coping with the crisis included also experiences of dealing with the migrants who are coming from outside, who may be carriers of virus, yet who belong to your own society, to your own families. So what does a village do when the migrant finally arrives? And he or she has to spend 15 days of compulsory isolation. Think of Indian villages. And there are umpteen number of experiences of the makeshift bed on a treetop. A boat is given if the village is on a riverside, and the migrant is asked to stay there and spend 15 days. Food will be supplied by the village council. And I can go on with instances which actually show there is a pattern in the local responses. So the local state, the local municipality, the local village council, the urban hamlets of workers, that is one set of experiences when you speak of below. You are not looking from a governmental centralized point of view. Second is that I was also thinking of the different associations of workers who were fighting the COVID. So from physicians to, as I said, caregivers, nurses, different unions, migrant solidarity organizations, etc., how they were coping with it. That was, again, very important. And third was, of course, the political part of the whole thing. And I think what was very important in this was that uh, you have to reformulate your idea of solidarity. Without solidarity, you don't have biopolitics from below. Biopolitics from below is not simply when you are drowning, you try to save yourself by clutching at a straw. No, there is this idea of we the villagers are now in crisis. We have to defend ourselves. So there is a sense of collectivity configured in different manners in different circumstances. But the truth of all these mobilizations is that they are built on the principle of solidarity. A local state, which may be oppressive in many ways on its people, which may differentiate among its own people, but in this time, oh, we have to save them. You know, it's typically like a gang leader, a village leader, a local tough. So I'm not portraying any idealistic picture, any dreamy picture, rosy picture of power, but the power of a collective. So you need to have you have to understand how solidarity as a principle works in this. And solidarity not as an ethical principle, but a principle of your own biopolitical existence. In order to survive, that's the way to go. So that is one. And the second is that this was, and that's why your shock question is so important, but this was very episodic. You cannot say that society was restructured on that basis. No. As dramatically as it appeared, it also evaporated. We are now doing a research on did the migrant figure in the electoral campaigns that the elections were going on, the political rallies, and we found out no. Even the government that did its quite a lot for the migrant, that government also did not think that saving the migrant was an important achievement when it said, it rather went on saying, we gave you free food. We saved you. But we saved the migrants, etc. wasn't thought to be, that important. So solidarity is episodic. Even the actors of solidarity think, oh, we had to do it, we have done it. So I think when the moment of shock is over, you don't think in terms of shock. Therefore, I think that's very important, that it was ephemeral. And that is why I said that a power which can realize the potential of this kind of public mobilization in the wake of crisis of life, that power needs to be also vertical. You can't simply say power is capillary. No, it doesn't work in that manner. Power has both its capillary forms as well as that form with which it can then reorganize the entire society. So I think the transformative dimension of power cannot be taken out of our discussions. The power is transformative. If that power is not transformative, that power will not be public power. And this is precisely one of the big lessons of our anti-colonial time, when our anti-colonial fighters were thinking of a new independent India, the new institutions that they built up. It is true of all powers, let us say, quote and unquote, after the revolutions. It is true of all powers that carry with them the hallmark of republican thinking, insurgent thinking. That is all I can say on this.
That's again, really, it's a wonderful response to our question in thinking in emergency, the recognize the transformative capacity of power, but this transformative capacity cannot be predicted until it really happened, right, in the real life. So this is literally biopolitics from below in two senses. One is empirically, of course, it's emerged from all different levels, especially at the village level and local state level, but also methodologically, it is a concept from below, because it is not something you articulate according to certain theoretical framework. It is based on the very multiform, all kinds of practices. And as you said, actually, we now still lack of precise language to give all these practices proper names, right? How exactly the biopolitics from below, what is a basic pattern or mechanism. But we recognize there's such a thing happening, and they are certainly potentially transformative. And I particularly like the point you mentioned. I hope I did not misunderstand. You said the political parties save the migrants not as kind of based on calculation about the winning voters, right? They just save them because they feel that they have to. They, in a way, it's compelled. And that is potentially transformative because it goes beyond this kind of electoral calculation. This thinking, I think, is very refreshing to me, because the mainstream thinking is still to say, oh, make the migrants count more in election. So therefore, you create a leverage, you create a power over political parties. So political party will take migrants as serious clients, so they will deliver politics. But what you are saying is that there's different way of thinking. You know, it's, we don't have to figure migrants in this electoral the machine, but let the migrants have acquire another type of symbolic value or another type of social force which will compel other actors to act. And then the question, of course, as you said, what what happened after the shocks? How this probably is why intellectual work is so important. We document this, capture that, and leave that, then we can start discussing, right?